especially Machakos and Makueni, people are walking long distances searching for water, and there is a lot of drought. So I would like to encourage the Petitions Committee to give a hand on this and support it, so that the engineer who has brought it to this house can have an opportunity to have a good report which can enable the water act to be changed so that we can focus on the wards. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that you are looking elegant on that seat. I would not sit before I say that. Thank you for wearing that fabulous African dress. You are looking so good as you chair this house. So thank you also for supporting the Kewopa theme of supporting our local designers and fundis, local fundis, so that they can put food on their table. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Nyamai. I now call upon Member for Turkana Central, the Honorable Joseph Imathe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. From the onset, I want to support this petition. It is timely, and it's happening at the very time when we are experiencing drought all over Kenya. Honorable Speaker, the point of water, although it's adverb function, I will want to support that the CDF function or deliverables be also listened at the board level to give us a 2% to see how we can also contribute. And that comes with resources. That is number one. Number two, Honorable Speaker, it's pleasing and good to listen to the good stories from Israel. That Israel is one of the countries that is deemed or that is lauded to have the best access to water in the world. And as at now, Israel is revealing the Sea of Galilee, desalinating water, the Mediterranean Sea water, to reveal the Galilee Sea. And it is said that the revealing is giving a half meter per year upward levels of water, much water into the Galilee. And it is able to export water to other neighboring countries like Jericho, Bethlehem, and this should also be an advantageous to us to learn from Israel. And in countries like Turkana, for example, where we have aquifers, Honorable Speaker, it is said that one of the biggest aquifer in Lotikipi, in Turkana West, can be able to serve Kenya for more than 70 years without recharge. And it looks like we have a lake in those areas. And we have so many other aquifers, about more than 5 in Turkana. And if this can be harnessed, then we can have adequate water, the whole of Kenya, if this can be even exported to other countries. And I support the petition, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
I now call upon the nominated member, Honorable John Badi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to support this petition. I think the issue of water is very critical. And those of us who come from constituencies where water scarcity is real and where we don't have much spring water, it is so frustrating for especially women who have to cut short their sleep very early in the morning. 3 a.m. you find women going for water. And Madam Speaker, that is why personally when CDF board insisted at one point that I should not use CDF money to drill water, citing devolution, I said I'm doing it in schools. And then they were like, how do you give the community? I said, if you don't give water to community and provide it to schools, they will destroy, they will spoil the water. So I have been using CDF in the period that I've been MP, and I did so many water projects courtesy of CDF. But my last comment, Madam Speaker, is I don't understand why this petition would even come here in the first place. We vote money to counties, and the functions that are devolved are not implemented. Then again, we are required to set aside funds to do the same functions. I want to urge the counties to devolve the funds that we give them further. There is nothing they are gaining by centralizing funds at the county level. They should decentralize funds further to wards to ensure that those services that are needed at the local level are implemented. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kilifi North, Honourable Owen Baya.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I would like to thank the petitioner for bringing this petition here. It's aptly, it's on time. And one of the issues that we have about the water sector is that while the Constitution devolves water, but the laws that exist, the statutes that exist, have not fully devolved the water function. There are a lot of functions that still remain with the national government. For example, the bulk water supply companies still are run by national government. And this hinders counties, or actually gives counties an excuse not to ensure that water reaches where it's supposed to reach. So I would like to urge the committee that will take up this petition to actually look at the statutes that are provided, the bulk water supply, and even when we have a Ministry of Water in this country at the national government, fully funded with lots of money, and yet the function is devolved to the county, and these counties do not have the requisite money to provide the water, then I think we need to look at, did we really mean what we said in our Constitution? That functions, money follows functions. And this function of providing water is in the counties. There are very many counties right now who are suffering from water deficit, and people are suffering. But if you look at the budgets for water in counties, it's very minimal, very minimal. And that budget cannot sustain provision of water in the counties. So why I like this petition is the aspect of we need to review statutes to ensure that if we say that water is devolved, let it be devolved, let the funds be devolved, let the counties have the money to ensure that water is provided. In the cost, we have the cost to water works. It is managed by the national government. The big pipelines are managed by, yes, it is okay because they're trans-county or inter-county. But again, how much money do counties have to ensure that they get the water from the bulk supplier and supply it? The other aspect is the cost of water. Today, water is bought very expensively for those that do not have water at home. Even those that have meters of water, we have heard that water recirculation and cost of water will now be, the cost of water will go up. If there's something that this country needs to do is to reduce the cost of water. And these water companies that are in the counties need to look and review. And the water, and again, Madam Speaker, we also need to look at, there are very many small parastatals that manage water. You have Warma, you have, I don't know, Warsba, we have very many. So that the cost, if you do a borehole today, like I've seen in Kilifi County, if you do a borehole today, you have to look for a permit, pay huge costs. And if you don't do that, Warma will come and remove your equipment from it and seal the borehole. So I ask myself this question, what is the role of Warma? To ensure there's water in this country, or to just look for money through borehole drilling? So we need to collapse all these parastatals that are in water and have only one agency that runs water, and devolve water function properly to the county so that the people in this country do not suffer from water deficiency. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Baya. And lastly, I will call upon the Honourable Member for Nyamira County, Honourable Jerusha Momanyi.
Madam Speaker, thank you for according me this opportunity so that I can also talk. It doesn't talk. Madam Speaker, Thank you so much for according me this opportunity so that I can also talk on the bill and on this petition, Madam Speaker. This petition is timely. If you look at what is going on in Kenya, right from December up to this time, women do not sleep. Some people think that they cut their sleep at 3, but they don't sleep. Right from 6, they go and line up in the springs looking for water. And you know, whenever women think of water, they are never in peace. This petition is timely. I want to urge this House to debate it and accept it, simply because we know that water is life. And again, because the bills of water have gone very high in this country, we want to urge this government to look into the bills of water, because when we talk of water being life, then it means most people are going to die because they will not be able to access water because water is expensive. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I want to appreciate you. I have never seen you in a fail like you are today. This is because you love women of this country and you are acting as an example. We want this time round, as you sit there as the Speaker and us as women in Parliament, we make sure that the women who make those fails and the clothes that we are wearing, they are put ahead in terms of making sure that the way they make their dresses, they are appreciated, and then their markets are uplifted through giving them morale. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, honorable members, for those kind words. We continue to support all those local fundis. I think this is a motion that has received a lot of interest from members. We can't get through everyone, but I encourage members to participate and attend the Public Petitions Committee and be able to give their views there. But also, hopefully, a member will adopt and make the bill on, table the bill on the water amendment to the Water Act. I see you. I'll give you your point of order in a minute. And now we leave this petition to the Public Petitions Committee chaired by Honorable Nimrod Baya. What is your point of order? Was it you?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I feel I have a special submission of this petition. I won't feel well if I don't submit it at this petition. Madam Speaker, on this petitioner, on matters of water, we have issues on drilling of the boreholes and the dams. It is the high time we stop this nonsense of drilling boreholes and dams. We need to cut all the budgets, give to Kenya Army, bring the water in Indian Ocean, Lake Victoria, and pump to the whole country. That is my submission, which, Speaker, I will have felt bad if I don't put them at this time. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Honorable Baya, on behalf of the Leader of Majority.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also want to appreciate your Kitenge dress, and probably next time we need to set a day for men also to wear their Kitenge shirts so that we can support the men designers also. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. 1. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2019 and the certificates therein: Masai Technical Training Institute, Kapcherop Technical and Vocational College, and Nyandarua Institute of Science and Technology. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2020 and the certificates therein: Masai Technical Training Institute, Kipsoen Technical and Vocational College, Kajiado West Technical and Vocational College, Kapcherop Technical and Vocational College, Narok West Technical Training Institute, Kenya Institute of Supplies Examination Board, Kenya Trade Networks Agency, KenTrade, Masai Mara Technical and Vocational College, Kiptaragon Technical and Vocational College, and Mabera Technical and Vocational College. 3. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements with respect for the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2021, and the certificates therein. Nyakash Technical and Vocational College, Sangalo Institute of Science and Technology, Kipsoen Technical and Vocational College, Eldama Ravine Technical and Vocational College, Kimasian Technical and Vocational College, Bomet University College, Shamberere Technical Training Institute, Rift Valley Technical Training Institute, Konoin Technical Training Institute, Coast Development Authority, Kenya Coast National Polytechnic, Kisii National Polytechnic, Kibwezi West Technical and Vocational College, Baringo Technical College, Chamasiri Technical and Vocational College, Kendege Technical and Vocational College, Ebukanga Technical and Vocational College, Omuga Technical and Vocational College, Rangwe Technical and Vocational College, Tana and Earth Rivers Development Authority Tarda, Water Sector Trust Fund, Sunset Hotel Limited, Roads Maintenance Levy Fund, Kenya Wildlife Services, and Meru University of Science and Technology. 4. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2022, and certificates therein. Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Staff House Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme, Kisumu Urban Project Cash Expenditure Fund, CKE 1035.01.G, National Humanitarian Fund, Revenue Statements of Minister of Defense, Lake Victoria Environmental Management Project Phase 3, Project Preparatory Advance number V1570 KE, and lastly, the audit report on European and development countries clinical trials partnership, EDCTP, for period 2018-2019 to 2021-2022. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
I think Honorable Owen Bayer, the statement.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. There's a request for statement regarding appointment of University Vice Chancellors as provided for in the Universities Act 2012. As member of Kilifi North, I would like to make this request. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education regarding the appointment of University Vice Chancellors as provided for in the University Act 2012. Honorable Speaker, Section 38(1) of the Universities Act says that every university shall have a Chancellor. Further, Section 38(1)(a) provides that the President, in accordance with the procedures set out in the second schedule, shall appoint the Chancellor of universities whose functions include being the titular head of the university and conferring degrees and granting diplomas, certificates, and other awards in the name of the university. Section 38(5) of the University Act states that the function of the Chancellor under subsection 3 may, in the absence or incapacity of the Chancellor, be performed by the Chairperson of the Council for a period not exceeding 3 months. Honorable Speaker, Pwani University, among 28 other universities in the country, has not had a Chancellor for a period of 4 years, since 2018, as a result of the failure of the previous administration to appoint chancellors in the country, hence incapacitating the functions and prosperity of the universities. During that period, Pwani University has held 4 graduations presided over by the chair of the council, which is against the statutes that caps exercise of such power by the chair of the council to a period not exceeding 3 months. Honorable Speaker, the other universities which have not had chancellors.
Honorable Jahona Ngeno.
Yes,
arrived.
yes. Lotons. Honorable Speaker, the other universities which have not had chancellors in place include Southeastern Kenya University, Laikipia University, Kirinyaga University, Chuka University, Cooperative University of Kenya, Kaimosi Friends University, Taita Taveta University, Maseno University, Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, Technical University of Mombasa, Tharaka University, Jaramogi University of Science and Technology, Karatina University, Tom Mboya University, Rongo University, Kabianga University, Kibabii University, Moi University, Garissa University, Technical University of Kenya, Murang'a University of Technology, Kisii University, Masai Mara University, Multimedia University, Masinde Muliro University, University of Embu, Alupe University, and University of Eldoret, where the second term of the Chancellor expires on the 14th of July 2023, and Mary University of Science and Technology, where the second term of the Chancellor expires in July 2020. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education on the following. Could the Chairperson explain measures that the government has put in place to fast-track the appointment of university chancellors for the affected universities within the shortest time possible to ensure that degrees being conferred are not challenged in courts of law? 2, could the Chairperson provide a timeline when the chancellors of the said universities, particularly Pwani University, will be appointed as set out in the second schedule of the University Act 2012? I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I make this statement as member for Kilifi North.
Thank you, member for Kilifi North. What's your point of order? But you just have to press the intervention button. You don't have to shout out loud.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, before I press my point of order, allow me also to join my colleagues to appreciate you as an African lady. You are well dressed, and that cannot go unnoticed. Thank you. Madam Speaker, my point of order is, whereas I acknowledge the member having stated that he is a member for Kilifi North, am I in order, Honorable Speaker, to ask him in his capacity as the deputy leader of government, deputy leader, majority leader, am I in order, Honorable Speaker, to ask whether he is in order to bring a statement, yet in law, he is the only person authorized, him together with the majority leader, to bring any communication from the government side on the floor, yet is questioning the same government, which, Honorable Speaker, he is supposed now to bring questions to, or sponsor any bill from the government. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, I'll let Honorable Bayer respond to that.
Honorable Speaker, as a deputy leader of majority in this House, it does not take away the right to represent the people of Kilifi North in this House. And I also want to say that I am asking the Committee on Education to look at this thing, because it does not just affect Kilifi North, and also to urge to know that my role of oversight in this House has not been taken away by virtue that I am a member of the leadership of the House. I rest my case. Thank you.
I think that's well answered. I will now commit this particular statement to the Departmental Committee on Education, chaired by Honorable Meli, member for Tindirect. Next order.
Order number 8, the petition to Parliament Procedure Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the petitions to Parliament Procedure Act 2012. Order number 9, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the National Construction Act and for connected purposes. Order number 10, motion. Development of policy on standardization and production of school uniforms in the country.
The Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I, Gathoni wa Mushomba, MP Githunguri constituency, rise to give notice on a motion to introduce standardization of uniforms in schools in Kenya. Honorable Madam Speaker, before I begin, I want to congratulate you for taking the front row in promoting local designers in Kenya, and you're looking wonderfully dressed. Honorable Madam Speaker, allow me to begin by stating that school uniform is an identifying standardized outfit or style of dress worn specifically for educational institutions in Kenya, and it is basically the school's dress code. Generally, uniforms enhance uniformity among the students, irrespective of their financial status, race, and color or fashion preference. Uniform also improves the learning environment, instilling discipline and safety. Uniform also gives students a sense of belonging to a particular school.
Honorable Member for Githunguri, just proceed and read, because you're moving the motion, not giving notice. Just read it as is, and then you can call upon your seconder thereafter.
Well guided, Madam Speaker. I rise to move this motion so that school uniforms are identifying standardized outfit in the style of dress. But I start guided, Madam Speaker, because I had moved this motion last week.
I think last week you gave the notice.
Or I gave.
You shall move it as written in the order paper. You can give her the order paper.
Okay. I start guided, Madam Speaker. I rise to move this motion that aware that school uniform, which is a variety of standardized clothing worn by students in educational institutions, create the uniformity among students irrespective of their socio-economic status or fashion preference. Further aware that school uniforms keep students focused on education, not clothes, reducing peer pressure and bullying, enhancing school pride, unity, and community spirit, as they go a long way in contributing to students' sense of belonging to their school's population, and appreciating that in Kenyan education system, Madam Speaker, schools across the country, whether private or public schools, require that students wear uniforms in order to be allowed to attend classes, and concerned that the cost of uniforms has continued to escalate, becoming prohibitively expensive for the poorest within the community, with some schools demanding that parents pay uniform money to specific school accounts, a move that locks out of many children whose parents cannot afford the expensive uniform as listed by schools. Now, therefore, this House therefore resolves that the government, through the Ministry of Education, develops a policy on standardization and production of schools' uniform in the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, aware that we have a problem, allow me to begin by stating that school uniform is an identifying standardized outfit or style or dress worn specifically to an educational institution. It is basically the school dress code. Generally, school uniform enhance uniformity among the learners, irrespective of their financial status, race, color, or fashion preference. Uniform also improves the learning environment, therefore instilling discipline and safety. Uniforms also give students a sense of belonging to a particular school and create an identity for the school in the community. Uniform also always have been believed to have benefits such as improving the academic performance, instilling discipline, improving attendance, retention, and most of all, cements the gap between the rich and the poor through the use of a unified dress code and style. Many schools around the world today have implemented uniform dress code in the school system to prevent their students from wearing inappropriate clothing items to school. School uniforms are common in primary and secondary schools in various countries. Madam Speaker, it is worth noting that Kenyan government is in its quest to ensure universal access to education has removed significant obstacles to school attendance by providing free primary school education and free secondary school education through capitation. The government of Kenya also introduced the policy of free day secondary school. This policy is aimed at increasing access to secondary education. However, Madam Speaker, the cost of education still remains very high because households are supposed to provide non-discretionary items such as school uniforms. There is no explicit support or significant support in provision of uniforms to students in schools. Honorable Madam Speaker, stakeholders in the education sector continue time after time lobbying for more accessible education in the developed world through the reduction of school uniforms and elimination of other costs. While several countries in sub-Saharan Africa have eliminated school fees, other significant costs, including cost of providing school uniform for children in Kenya, still remain. Cost of school uniform in Kenya, Madam Speaker, indeed remains a dominant obstacle to education opportunities for the poor and the vulnerable students in the primary and secondary school. It is therefore important to note that school uniforms in Kenya remains non-standardized and are sold in a highly fragmented market. This has led to even higher cost of learning. It is important to note, Madam Speaker, that the Kenya as a country adopted the policy on universal access to basic education. The policy seeks to ensure all children enroll in primary school and complete their secondary school education with a 100% transition rate. Despite this effort, Madam Speaker, the high cost of living and poverty still remains and prevents many students from joining secondary schools, and a situation that is continuing to worsen because of the exorbitant costs of school uniforms in Kenya. Madam Speaker, standardization of school uniform will ensure all parents are able to afford the uniform, and thus students of low economic status and vulnerable families will not feel left out of place. They will not feel underdressed and insecure. This will reduce competition, and students' self-esteem and morale will be boosted, eventually increasing the student focus and study and improving on enrollment levels in secondary schools and primary schools. Madam Speaker, standardization of school uniform will also help the government achieve its goal on education for all and the medium development goal. It will also possibly enable government to fully implement its policy on 100% transitions to secondary school. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, let me conclude by reiterating that while Kenya has been relatively successful in addressing barriers to school education, including standardization of school fees, there still remain many challenges in the education sector, one of these being school uniforms. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, the lack of standardization of uniform adds extra expenses to families' already tight budgets, as parents are required to purchase uniform at increased prices to buy at specific outfitters and shops. It is for this reason, Madam Speaker, and pursuant to Standing Order number 33 at Sabbatical 2, that I rise to seek leave of adjournment of this House in order to discuss this definite matter of urgent national importance. And I ask my colleague, the Honorable Onesimus Ngogoyo from Kajiado North, to second this motion. Thank you.
You may proceed. Can you give him the mic?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second the motion by the member for Githunguri and the Honorable Member wa Mushomba. And Madam Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of this House that, Madam Speaker, it has become more expensive to buy school uniform than to support a day-going secondary school child. Madam Speaker, in the recent Form 1 enrollment, in some of the situations I have in my constituency, Madam Speaker, you find a child is using about 14,000 to secure school uniform, and the school fees for a day-going child is about 9,000 shillings. Madam Speaker, for this reason, I would urge the House, let us, Madam Speaker, approve this motion, because our children, the vulnerable ones, Madam Speaker, have a big problem accessing school uniform, and this, Madam Speaker, goes a long way to affecting their future, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, a lot of parents are not able to support their children. Basic economics, Madam Speaker, economies of scale. When you produce in bulk, you are able to reduce the cost. But Madam Speaker, the more you produce in bulk, the more you enroll children, school uniform has continued to be expensive. Madam Speaker, if you want to support local designers, local people, Madam Speaker, and this week, Mr. Speaker, it's notable that the women parliamentarians are very beautiful because of the local, unlike before, Madam Speaker, I don't know what was happening before, but this week, the women parliamentarians look very beautiful. Actually, Madam Speaker, I think we should even change the standing orders to have them look like you, and some of them that are dressed very well, Madam Speaker, every day. And the Honorable Mushomba, who brought this motion, Madam Speaker, I have told her, Madam Speaker, I am even comfortable sitting around her. With those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to second the motion and ask this House, Madam Speaker, to approve. I second and ask the Honorable House, let us standardize the issue of school uniform to enable the child in Lodwar, the child in Kajiado, and the child in Nyamira to be equal in accessing opportunity. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I wish to also recognize the Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba, Chairperson for Kewopa, who started the initiative to support the hustler fundis in Kenya by encouraging us to wear locally made dresses, together with the Secretary General of UDA, Senator Veronica Maina. That's a wonderful initiative, and we shall keep it up. Now, yes, okay. I will give you an opportunity in a minute. I now wish to propose the question that aware that the school uniforms, which is a variety of standardized clothing worn by students in educational institutions, create homogeneity among students irrespective of their socioeconomic status or fashion preference. Further aware that the school uniforms keep students focused on education, not clothes, reducing peer pressure and bullying, enhancing school pride, unity, and community spirit, as they go a long way in contributing to the students' sense of belonging to their school's population. Appreciating that in the Kenyan education system, schools across the country, whether private or public schools, require that students wear uniform in order to be allowed to attend classes, and concerned that the cost of uniforms has continued to escalate, becoming prohibitively expensive for the poorest within the community, with some schools demanding that parents pay uniform money to specific school accounts, a move that locks out many children whose parents cannot afford the expensive uniforms as listed by schools. Now, therefore, this House therefore resolves that the government, through the Ministry of Education, develops a policy on standardization and production of school uniforms in the country. I will now call upon a few members to contribute to this motion, if there are any. The Honourable Member for Kilgoris, Honourable Julius Olesunkuli. Okay.
Yeah, Madam Speaker. Okay, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I also want to take this opportunity to also congratulate you and the rest of the ladies today, but I think you stand out among them as the most well-dressed today. Madam Speaker, on this issue of uniforms, when I first joined school myself in 1969, I came from a more enlightened family because my uncle was a teacher. So on my first day in school, I reported with a long shirt. It was a khaki shirt. Of course, there was no requirement for trousers at that time. And Madam Speaker, that was actually the upper class of dressing, because some of my classmates arrived in class with a Masai shuka, nothing else to wear. And Madam Speaker, the differences were manifest in what students were wearing. A few weeks later, we were given uniforms. Luckily, we went to a Catholic school, and the missionaries provided us with uniform. And the day we wore uniform, we all looked alike. There was no difference between a child from a rich family, a child from an enlightened family, a child from a poor family. Uniform has a way of making students equal. Sometimes I hear people say that we don't need uniform, but uniform, Madam Speaker, has become part of our learning culture, and I must say that we must always have uniform in school. When you have uniform, it distinguishes you from the other school and gives you the sense of pride as far as your own personality is concerned. A child from Kilgore's boys' high school looks different from a child from, say, Kisii High School, and each one of them will carry the uniform as their sense of pride. And Madam Speaker, the only issue in recent days is the way we handle this uniform issue. Many teachers, many head teachers are using this school uniform as a business for themselves. And therefore, they have made connections with producers of uniform or vendors of uniform, so that when a student goes to school, he is required to go only to a particular shop in order to buy uniform. Now, this kind of business has escalated the prices of uniform, because if a school has only one source of uniform, that means there is no competition, and that means the prices of uniform will go very high. Other schools have required that they dress in designer, and that you should only have a certain quality. A principal of a school would look at your uniform and say, this is not pure cotton, or this is not pure this. And I think that this is where we need to correct ourselves as Kenya. The uniform must be, I think the question of standardizing uniform must more be on the color and on the shape of the uniform rather than on the texture of the uniform. What students can afford, so long as it is approximately close in style and color to what has been recommended by the school, should be the school uniform. In America, in the United States of America, only a few schools are required to wear a uniform. But even then, the dress that you wear is standardized. So there is a dress code. You don't just appear in school with anything. But in Kenya, because poverty is here with us, we cannot expect that uniform becomes the more expensive part of our education. We would like to urge the schools to also feel the pain that everybody else is feeling. Instead of requiring that the student goes and wears a particular uniform, we could all look at it again and say, is this really what uniform should be? Are we making it very expensive? Of course, there are those who choose to go to expensive schools, and that is part of our democracy. If you choose to go to Hillcrest, that means you can afford the uniform they are going to prescribe to you. If there are schools like Alliance, which call themselves Bush because of their uniform, would like to maintain a high standard of uniform, I think that could be allowed. But as a general rule, our public schools should have uniform which the students can afford. And I think that that is the bottom line, because we as members of parliament today want to help the students to pay school fees, to do everything, but you can see we have issued many, many checks have been issued to support them in terms of bursaries. But when they get there, they are told, no, there is 9,000 shillings which is pending for uniform. There is 12,000 shillings which is pending in uniform. So we cannot afford to have that because the student is still out, although the fees has been paid. Madam Speaker, this is the time when members of parliament should start the process of ensuring that our students are not exploited by principals, and that the uniform should, although it is a thing that we must support, uniform is a part of our learning process. Uniform is the pride of a school, but it must not be the most expensive part, and it must not be unaffordable. Madam Speaker, I support.
The Honourable Member for Dagoretti North, Beatrice Ilachi. Okay, she's not here. Okay. What's that name? The Honourable Susan Kiamba, Member for Mwakweni.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. While I appreciate the motion on board on the issue of uniform, I have a few questions that I wish the presenter makes very clear. When already we have uniform in schools, what new thing are we bringing on board? Are we suggesting, just like we had the buses, we have all yellow, all green? If that is the case, I think we would miss the objective of uniform, because mainly the objective of uniform in class is identification and being able to know which institution has what kind of uniform. And basically that is meant for discipline and all other factors that have actually been explained by the mover of this motion. And two, what are we really standardizing? Is it the price? Is it the style? Is it the design? I think we need to be very clear. What in particular are we going to standardize? In the case of the buses, we were standardizing the color. The sizes were different. But now when we come to uniform, what actually are we going to standardize? Because already the current status in Kenya, we don't have a school which has no uniform. And I think even the big bone of contention has been, especially in the rural areas, the high prices that some schools are charging uniform. So Madam Speaker, sir, I really need to understand. No, Madam Speaker, sorry. Madam Speaker, I really need to understand the objective of this particular motion. Otherwise, I think in my view, it might be a very retrogressive agenda for this particular country. I can't imagine a Kenya where every student I see is in green. It's even boring. I think I need to see green, yellow, and I think it's also discouraging to the manufacturers. We need, I think, different colors give beauty. So I think in my view, Madam Speaker, I think this motion need to be revised. We need to understand its depth and length, because without that, it may be very difficult to know actually what is it that we want changed in Kenya, and what objective are we going to achieve by having that. Personally, I would think the revision would look at the pricing, especially in rural areas. Many head teachers are charging a lot of fee, and they want very high class uniform in rural areas where people are used to cheap materials. I think if it is that, I would actually support. But on the whole, I think If uniform is what I see even around with some of the schools present, I think it's enough to have unique for every school and every area. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence of 2 schools in the Speaker's gallery. That is Wanjohi Mixed Secondary School from Kipipiri constituency, Nyandarua County. I also wish to recognize again in the Speaker's gallery, Kanyakine High School from Imenti South constituency, Meru County. And you will note, and Honorable Wamushomba will be happy to know, that both schools have the same uniform. I also wish to recognize the following 2 schools who are seated in the public gallery: Kinderworld Academy from Langata constituency, Nairobi County, and Porterhouse International School from Westlands constituency, Nairobi County. And I think it would be wrong for me to take all the compliments about my dress code without recognizing the fundis who did the work, Mrs. Paulina Otieno of Nairobi County and Mrs. Onyango Apollo, who has a small kiosk in Eldoret town. Asante.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And you're very right to recognize and appreciate the tailors who have done this wonderful work. And as I also pay tribute to you as the Speaker and the leader of the House, and the other ladies who are here, including Honorable Gathoni Wamushomba, the Honorable Aika Mizigi is here, the first chairperson, Honorable Wangari, and Honorable Kene is here, the deputy whip. I saw Caroline Nyelechei, she's on the other side. It's wonderful. And the 2 ladies from KC and Nyamira, and the other ladies who are waving here, great ladies. You are all very well dressed. I think we the men will have to take a cue from you so that we can also have African designers designing for us a dress that is going to be acceptable to this house, so that we stop wearing these suits which have been worn since 1963 and there before, and we continue wearing them, whether it is hot, whether it is cold, whether it is what. Allow me, Madam Speaker, to support the motion by the Honorable Wamushomba as regards school uniforms. And as we debate this, we have schools that are here, so we are able to see exactly what uniforms do. The importance of school uniforms cannot be overemphasized. It is important that we actually maintain, which was started those days when formal education was introduced into the country. Those days when possibly they used to wear shirts only, they used to wear vests in form of uniform, whatever it was. Even where we have rural schools, and these are poor places, poor parents, uniforms may be tattered all the time. School uniform gives a sense of belonging to all students. You become proud, you associate yourself with your school, and whenever it is, even if it's a competition, you do the best because you know your school's reputation is at stake. Even when you are out there in terms of discipline, you have to ensure you are well disciplined, because if you misbehave, your school will actually be put into disrepute. We know very well that in the rural areas, especially constituencies, we have all manner of uniforms that are worn by students. We know very well that school uniforms do not distinguish pupils, whether they are from a rich background or whether they are from a poor background. In my constituency, there are schools that are considered to be elite. There are others that are considered to be poor. But when they are together and each school has its own uniform, no distinction whatsoever can be made between one school and the other. And what matters then is the results of every competition, including academic competition, sports competition, and whatever other competition there is. As we debate this motion, and I urge the House actually to pass it so that the government can go to the drawing board and get us to be working with uniforms that are standardized, and especially in terms of prices. Today, and it's important, yesterday we were discussing about CBC. We have grade 7 in place, and one complaint we are receiving from the schools is the exorbitant price of uniforms. This must be looked into. The second issue that is coming in is that every head teacher in every school wants to make a quick buck by selling school uniforms. Some of that uniform is of very low quality. It is not well tailored, as a result of which parents end up paying lots of money, exorbitant prices, so that they can buy uniform, which to a great extent is substandard. The Ministry of Education must come up with set standards. And the standardization does not mean we have to have one color. What we are saying is we are possibly going to have different colors, but the same material, the same format of tailoring, and everything else that is to be done. That way, the price of uniform is likely to be standard, and it's also likely to be affordable to parents, including those from rural homes, those from poor places where money is scarce. This idea of telling parents, pay certain sums of money into specific bank accounts, then you come to school to get uniform, is what is leading to a rip-off of our parents. If we go back to the days of yore, we may have specific tailors in specific markets and towns who deal in school uniforms. There is possibility of competition, and the competition is extremely healthy, especially in terms of sale of goods, where tailors will compete on not only quantity, not only quality, but also in pricing. So I believe part of the policy we are calling for is an abolition to schools becoming vendors of school uniform. Let that be left to school outfitters, those outfitters out there who deal with school uniforms to benefit our children. And as I said, it's good to point out that when we talk about standardization and we look back into our constituencies and they see the schools we have and the sort of parents who actually take those children to school, it is very important. We know that the agenda of this house is to reduce the education burden of our parents. Let parents pay less school fees. Let them buy inexpensive but high quality uniform, shoes and socks, so that our children are able to go to school in a dignified manner. They are able to learn in an atmosphere where no child feels to be lesser to the other one. No child feels because I'm wearing bad uniform, I'm therefore inferior. As we do this, then we are saying education will have a meaning and will be of benefit to our children and to ourselves as Kenyans. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Honorable Member for Garissa Town, the Honorable Major Deco Barrow. I think that will be your maiden speech.
Maybe, okay. Yes. Asante sana. Is it on? Madam Speaker, my name is Major Deco Mohammed Barrow, for Garissa Township, Member of Parliament for Garissa Township. The name Major arises from I was in the military. I am the second major in this house. Unfortunately, I was warned by the Major Bashir that I can only use this title out of this house because he has patented that title. Well, Madam Speaker, as I rise as a new member of Parliament and the first time I'm standing on the floor of the House, I also got a title from the colleagues here, some of the colleagues who gave me a title of being the lowest ranking member of the House. Lowest member, ranking member of the House. And I've noticed many titles here have come with some certain privileges. So I accept it as the lowest member, ranking member of the House. So, and I think the titles have come with certain privileges. So I hope in the standing orders I will be considered with that title, to enjoy certain privileges, maybe after the minority whip or something like that. Madam Speaker, I represent a constituency of, which is cosmopolitan in nature. I had the opportunity while campaigning to have met almost 43 communities of Kenya, all residing and doing their businesses and living, looking for their livelihoods within my constituency. My constituency is also partly urban and partly rural. Maybe 30 or 40% of my constituency is also a rural constituency, and then the other 70% is an urban constituency. Having said that, I want to, first of all, to thank the people of Garissa town for giving me this honor to stand in this house to represent them as their member of parliament. Special thanks, of course, goes to my predecessor, Honorable Duale, who is now the current member, Cabinet Secretary of Defense, for his immense contribution to the constituency of Garissa in terms of development, in terms of leadership. Many of my colleagues here ask me whether I will be able to fit in his shoes. Duale, as a leader, a member of parliament, you all know, and I know as well, has been a very astute leader, a debater in this house. And at the constituency level, he has established a good foundation for me to build on as the next member of parliament. So I thank all those who contributed to my win, and he also supported me. He was honestly invested so much, both emotional and resources, to ensure that I get elected as a member of this house. Madam Speaker, as a constituency, we face a lot of challenges that in my term as a member of parliament in this house, I will be able to be a priority for me. One of the major challenges we face now is the drought issue as a constituency. This drought has affected us, though major part of a section of my constituency is urban. We really depend on the pastoralist or livestock business as a trading business for my constituency, as the economic enabler for my constituency. We have been really affected by the ravaging drought, which is affecting not only my constituency, but also 24 pastoralist communities or counties. Madam Speaker, this has brought in a lot of challenges for my constituency, and one of them is now we have noticed or we realized that we have climate refugees in my constituency, in that people who have lost their livelihoods in the constituency or the neighboring constituencies have been forced to move into Garissa without anything, and now they have to be taken care of by the agencies, donor agencies, and the government of Kenya. Meaning they are settling on land that will eventually bring a conflict among the communities living in this constituency. The other problem we are facing as a result of this drought is that parents, communities have lost their livelihoods, and that means they cannot be able to fend for their families, means they cannot take their children to school, and this is a challenge I am facing as a member of parliament. Means over 100% of the transition to secondary school and university, I have to take care of it in terms of the CDF fund that we have been allocated. This is a big challenge for us. The other problem we face as a county or as a constituency is the issue of education that we need to address, or I need to address as a member of parliament, and that is we have an exodus of teachers, and unfortunately yesterday in this house we were debating on the issue of junior secondary schools, and we have almost 100% transition from my constituency into junior secondary school and also into secondary school. This is a very big problem for the constituency. We already had a problem of teachers allocation from the national government or from the Teacher Service Commission. Out of the 30,000 recruited teachers in the this year, we managed only to get only 15 out of that as a constituency. We already had a shortfall in my constituency, and that is an area we need an affirmative action for my constituency. The other area or situation we are facing as a constituency is on issue of civil documents, the issue of passports, the issue of identity cards, ID cards. Madam Speaker, my constituency, when young people want to get IDs, they have to undergo a very tedious vetting process, unlike the rest of the country. We need another decision made by the government on this issue of IDs. The vetting process for us is too tedious, is too discouraging for us. The other issue is the passport issue. We had a passport control office in Garissa. Unfortunately, it was moved as a result of, I will say, politics. Because it was moved immediately, the member of parliament for Garissa Township was moved from the majority leader position. And now we are facing that we have to travel to Nairobi to get this important travel document. To bring to your attention, we have a big population of Garissa constituents who go every year for Hajj to Mecca to perform a religious duty in the numbers of 3,000 to 4,000 a year. We have young people who are seeking employment with NGO community or NGO world in Somalia and the region, who have to come and seek these travel documents from Nairobi. It is getting too expensive. It takes too long to access those documents. We need this office returned back to Garissa and to serve the people of the northern region, not only Garissa constituency, but the counties of Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, Isiolo, and Tana River. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you once again for giving me this opportunity, and inshallah, God willing, I'll be participating in the debate coming in. On the issue that was on the table today, the issue of that was about the uniform standardization. In my opinion, as a member of parliament for Garissa, as one of the members have said here, there is no, we do not understand, I do not understand the essence of the motion. In that standardization, we already have uniforms in schools. So we need to be clear on what we want to standardize. The issue of what we should discourage is that principals or school teachers asking to be given money to go and buy school uniforms on behalf of our children. That should be the responsibility of the parents to address that. So I do.
Your time is up, Honorable Member, and members can make it brief so that more people can be able to have an opportunity. I'd like to call upon a member for Taita Taveta, Lydia Mzigi.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. And from the onset, I want to support and congratulate Honorable Gathoni wa Mshomba for this well-thought motion. And Madam Speaker, I want to say education is an equalizer. And education being an equalizer, there are several things that come in hand with that one. We come from different backgrounds as we go to school, Madam Speaker. And for students or for people to look or to feel the same or to feel equal in school, uniform is the only thing that makes them feel equal. I want to support the standardization of school uniform again, because it is also good for identification. Madam Speaker, I remember when I was in school, most of the time it was a day school, and at times we'll have another school misbehaving somewhere, and it had the same uniform with our school. And therefore, if you'll hear in the newspaper writing that a certain school, some students misbehaved somewhere, there was a school that had an indiscipline case someplace, and because the uniform of that school resembled our school, they could not be able to differentiate which school was there and between this other school and the other. Therefore, I support, but these uniforms should not look the same. Let's allow a variety of colors, but standardization should come to a point whereby we should not allow the students to go to school with maybe home clothes and stuff like that. But when it comes to school uniform, I agree and I support that it should be there and it should be allowed. Madam Speaker, I also want to say that it is only when we have a school uniform, it is part of instilling discipline in school. Because when we are in school and we look the same in that uniform, it is easy for us to conduct ourselves in a certain manner. And like everybody comes with a design that they want, and therefore the feeling in school is not in harmony, is not the same. There are some who will feel that they are better than the other. There are some who feel that maybe they have dressed more expensive than the other, and therefore demoralizing the ones that cannot afford that much of an expensive uniform. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I think this is a very good idea, only that it needs to be supported. Again, I know that there are some schools that have taken advantage of this uniform thing, because you find parents buying the uniform where they can afford, and when they get to school they are told, no, this is not the uniform that we want a certain uniform. And because they sell that specific uniform, they are in business, they buy that uniform, and therefore they make the parents return the other uniform that they bought, maybe a cheaper uniform, for them to be able to buy the expensive uniform that is being sold in schools. And therefore it has become a business, and this is what is discouraging most of the parents. I have witnessed this. I have supported students here and there going to school, and I'm told, oh, the uniform that we bought in a certain shop was not the right one. We go to school and they told us, no, we cannot admit you, the students, in this uniform, therefore you have to buy the uniform that is provided in school. And for some reasons you find that uniform in school is just a business there between some schools there, and it becomes very, very expensive for the parents. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And as I wind up, I want to say, Madam Speaker, you look very smart in your African attire. Congratulations, and let's support our local tailor. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Taita Taveta. I now call upon Honorable Wanjiko Muhia, Member for Kipipiri, Nyandarua County. I think your students are here.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to welcome the students from Wajohi Mixed Secondary School and their teachers and parents who have visited the National Assembly and Senate to see the proceedings. And in this motion, I want to congratulate Honorable Gathoni wa Mushoba, which is so timely. And Honorable Speaker, as I walked inside, I was trying to trace my students, and I couldn't identify them because they look the same as those one from Meru County, only that my county has a lot of Mokorino, so at least I saw two. And I noticed that mine are sitting on the front benches, and I welcome them very much. Honorable Speaker, having said that, this is a good motion, and I think going forward in the current times, we need to standardize many things, and we find sometimes that the school uniforms with this current economic hardship is expensive than the school fees, and this beats the logic. You find the school uniform can cost 30, 40, even 50,000 Kenya shillings, especially in the boarding schools, while maybe the school fees is 20,000. Really, it beats the logic, and we need a policy that can standardize this. However, we must not forget where we come from, and what Honorable Aika have just indicated, that it is good every school be allowed that freedom of choosing its own uniform, its own choice of colors, so that they are also different in their kind. Because even currently, when we are doing infrastructure, you find school A like maybe color green, and you find all the iron sheet are green, red, blue, or whichever. So the identity is important. The students can be identified with the different colors, so that we shouldn't lose that we say all children wear the same. And basically, this is a very good example where their own MP cannot identify them from Meru County. Having said that, we must remember that we are living in hardship and economic crisis. And this idea of telling all students to go to shop A and buy from the shoes there, the sweater there, while these things are available even in Motuba. If a shoe is black, a parent can go to Gekoba or the nearest market and buy a black shoes, so long as it has laces as it is required, and the child can continue with the learning. So in my view, the policy is good, but we need to identify to make it simple, easy, and achievable. With those few remarks, I want to support this motion, and again, I welcome the Wajohi Mixed Secondary School in the National Assembly.
Thank you. I now call upon the member for Bureti constituency, Honorable Kibet Kimingoi. No, he's not here. Okay, then I now call upon the Honorable Johanna Ngeno, member for Imurwa Kedir Dikir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also getting this opportunity to weigh in on this particular motion. Madam Speaker, we must understand that education has to be accessible. It has to be cheap. It has to be something that each and every child, student in our society, Madam Speaker, achieves it or accesses it. Madam Speaker, remember the saying that education is an equalizer. Wherever you come from, whether you come from the poorest community, you come from the poorest family, you come from the most remotest area, you come from wherever, education, once you access, Madam Speaker, makes you equal to those other people. So, Madam Speaker, I believe the major introduction of this motion, and I wish this motion should go a long way in becoming even an amendment to a bill so that it can become law. Madam Speaker, I believe that when we talk about accessing education, when we talk about the free primary education, it has to be completely free. I'm sorry, Speaker, there has been change of guard. Mr. Speaker, I was saying, when we talk about the free primary education, it has to be free primary education, accessible and reachable and quality education. Mr. Speaker, I think among us the many issues that we have in our schools, so that most of the students, either pupils or students, drop out of school. And I've taken time to do my own assessment. Mr. Speaker, it is because of the payments which maybe the schools are demanding from the parents. That is one of the biggest cause of school dropouts. Madam Speaker, as members of this House and as legislators and as representatives of the people, we must take time to ensure that we make education affordable and reachable and reduce the number of dropouts which are avoidable. Of course, Mr. Speaker, there are situations that make students drop out of schools which are unavoidable. But those which are avoidable, as in terms of the cost, in terms of what are we supposed to pay, Mr. Speaker, then we should take time as this House to ensure that we make it affordable and accessible to everybody. The introduction of 100% transition, Mr. Speaker, has gone a long way. But the major impediment are the payments that we're asking these people to do. Another issue, Mr. Speaker, the introduction of the JSS is also another opportunity because we are reducing the number of years in the secondary school and bring them to primary. And the reason was cost. The major reason why we brought at least one class from secondary to primary is cost, so that parents will not incur the cost of a student traveling to a long distance school or even buying uniforms and all those kind of stuff. Speaker, all these are geared towards reducing the cost of education. Mr. Speaker, this idea of uniforms, which of course the member Mushomba has brought as a motion, is a very vital issue, Mr. Speaker. I think we not only need to look at how should we standardize uniform. Mr. Speaker, I've heard members talking about the fact that uniforms normally make you look different from the rest, and so on and so forth. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to make our students feel that they are all uniform, they are all equal, so that some should not feel they are more inferior or superior than the rest. The reason why we introduced one uniform bus color was so that we make all the schools uniform, so that we can identify that this bus belongs to a school. The same way, we also need to standardize, and I fully support, let us standardize the school uniform. The only thing that should be different is the badge. Let every school come up with a badge. Just like you look at all the buses on the road, they are yellow. But the name of the school is what differentiates from the other. What is wrong with that? No school is feeling inferior. Even if the bus is long, the other one is short, but everybody will know this is a school bus. Let us standardize the uniform. Make them the same color. If it is short, if it is long trousers, make it just a standard. And let's move away from schools where from once used to be putting on shorts. That is primitive. Let us make our children feel beautiful and handsome with good trousers and good shirts. Speaker, I support fully. Let us have the same uniform. If it is sweaters, it should be one color. If it is shirts, it should be one color. If it is trousers, it should be one color. What is wrong with uniformity? Somebody saying that we need to have so many colors so that people look beautiful. They will still look beautiful. We are on ties, Speaker, and it is uniform that we should be on ties, uniform that we should be on suits, although it is not uniform that we have the same color. But look at the orderlies in the House, Mr. Speaker. They are all in one uniform. So why are we having our orderlies in the same attire? Speaker, I think I support fully this motion that we need to have a uniform set of standardized set of uniforms. Speaker, I know uniform also is help us to identify the students, so that even I remember when I was a student, I would wear my uniform up to home, and one of the reasons was to show people that I'm in school. Secondly, was also to show the badge that I had that belonged to Maseno High School, and Maseno High School at that time was the only national school. Speaker, we feel proud of that. We feel happy. But at the same time, uniforms are supposed to identify our children, so that even if you find a student at the bus stage, may be stranded because of lack of money, you will know this one is a student, this is a pupil, and then you can help them to even pay for their transport home. It also helps to remove. Some people sometimes would want to do bad things to students, but if they are not in uniform, Speaker, they can do bad things. But if they're in uniform, of course, the society will protect those particular students. Speaker, lastly, I want to weigh in on the issue of the payments which we are normally doing on schools. Remember, Speaker, I've had a lot of running battles with most of the, especially the Ministry of Education and, of course, the TSC. And my major concern, Mr. Speaker, is the payments we are making to these day secondary schools, and even the new introduction of the JSS, junior secondary schools. We've seen most of the principals are asking students to come with lots of money. Speaker, the reason why we removed, we did what we call free day secondary education was so that we can make our children access education. There are so many parents who cannot pay for boarding schools, who cannot pay for the schools which are very far. The reason why we introduced the day secondary schools and closely to the primary schools and to the parents is so that those parents who cannot afford to pay fees can send their children to those particular schools. But many schools are introducing so many other activities. One of them is this uniform. And I'm thinking, Mr. Speaker, that I'm requesting even the member to ensure that we introduce in the capitation, the whatever for capitation, Mr. Speaker, so that we budget it in the provisions of that amount that is being sent to every school. We include uniform as part of those capitation. We include school feeding program. Because in my constituency, Speaker, we are paying millions of money that goes towards food. Mr. Speaker, even for the students who come around that school, people who can move and come back, go for lunch, come back, people who can pack their lunch, even if they are coming from far, parents can pack them lunch. But, Mr. Speaker, the school has introduced it as a compulsory payment, so that when you don't pay for food, you are sent home for 3 weeks. Why would you send my student for 3 weeks? Because of failure to pay fee for food. Mr. Speaker, I think the principals should introduce what we call meal cards, so that in case a student is unable. But most importantly, we should, as a house, introduce a payment of school feeding program, so that the schools and the parents who cannot afford to pay fees can access the feeding program through the appropriation, through the budgeting in this house. Same case with the uniform, and same case with this idea of remedial. Mr. Speaker, I really, those a few days ago in my schools and opted to ask for principals not to demand for remedial or send a student home because of failure to pay remedial. Speaker, remedial should be optional. If a student is able to pay, allow them to stay in school. If they are not able to pay, let them not come for the extra classes, but come for the classes where the government has paid for. You cannot send a student home because of failure to pay remedial.
Very well. Members, let me acknowledge the presence of St. Anne's Gitura girls from Gichugu constituency, Kirinyaga County, as a school that is within the Speaker's gallery as we debate this motion on school uniforms. Next to speak on this is Honorable Kimani Molo constituency.
Asante sana mstahiki Spika kwa kunipa nafasi hii. Nitajaribu kuzungumza kwa mara ya kwanza kwa lugha ya Kiswahili na natumai kwamba sitafeli. Mstahiki Spika, ningeanza kwa kumpa kondole mbunge wa Githunguri Mheshimiwa Gathoni wa Mushomba kwa sababu ya kuwafikiria wanafunzi wetu katika shule zetu. Mstahiki Spika, wakati tunasema ya kwamba masomo ni bure, tunasema uongo. Wakati tunasema ya kwamba masomo ya day ama ile shule za kila siku ni bure, hakuna karo unalipwa, hiyo ni uongo. Tunaposema ya kwamba inawezekana kupeleka mashule yetu ya mabweni kwa yule mzazi wa hali ya chini, jibu ni kwamba ni uongo. Mstahiki Spika, niliweza kuangalia kwa sababu wakati nilikuwa kule mashinani Molo siku ya Jumapili, nilipatana na mama moja ambaye anauza soko pale Molo. Na huyo mama mtoto wake alikuwa ameitwa shule moja ya upili ya Butere Girls kule Karoki Girls kule Kirinyaga. Mstahiki Spika, yule mama alikuwa na risiti ya kwamba yeye ameweza kulipa karo ya shilingi 20,000. Lakini juu ya kulipa karo ya shilingi 20,000 alihitajika kulipa pesa zingine shilingi 20,150. Kama yale mambo ambayo bidhaa ambazo alikuwa zinahitajika pale shuleni, lakini ambazo alishurutishwa asinunue mahali kwingine, lazima azinunue pale shuleni. Mheshimiwa Spika, huyu mama ametia bidii kwa yule mama ambaye anauza pale nyanya soko kuweza kuweka shilingi 20,000 ya kwamba apeleke mtoto shule. Hiyo ni juhudi kubwa sana. Na kwa hivyo wakati niambia mimi nimelipa school fees, nimelipa karo, nikamwambia uliapply bursary. Akaniambia lakini bursary haitaweza kulipa haya mahitaji mengine ambayo nahitajika. Kwa hivyo Mstahiki Spika, ilibidi nitafute hela zangu kibinafsi niweze kumlipia ili aweze kusoma. Na nafurahia kwamba huyo msichana ameweza maisha yake ya kidato cha kwanza katika ile shule ya Karoki Girls kule Kirinyaga. Ikanifanya nianze kufikiria hizi 20,000 ambazo tulikuwa tunaitishwa ni za nini? Mheshimiwa Spika, ukienda sokoni shati ya shule ni shilingi 350. Shati hilo ukienda kuinunua kwa shule ni shilingi 800. Wanaongeza shilingi 450, mara 3 ya zile pesa ambazo hiyo shati inatoka huku nje. Ile trouser ama ile longi sijui kwa Kiswahili, ukinunua huku nje ni shilingi 700. Shule mingi wanauza shilingi 1,500. Ile sweta ukinunua kwa duka ni shilingi 750. Mashule yanauza shilingi 1,500, mara 2 ya hiyo bei ya hiyo sweta ukinunua huku nje. Tai ya kawaida tu shilingi ukinunua kwa soko shilingi 150. Ukienda kuinunua kwa shule shilingi 300 hiyo tai. Tena wanasema wanunue ile inaitwa tracksuit, quote and quote tracksuit. Ukinunua dukani shilingi 1,300. Ukienda kuinunua kule kwa shule wanauza katikati ya shilingi 2,000 na shilingi 3,000. Godoro la kulalia ukinunua kwa duka shilingi 1,800. Mashule yetu yanaitisha pesa wazazi kununua ile mattress ambayo inakuwa hata ni ndogo kuliko hii ya shilingi 1,800 na wanaitisha shilingi 2,800. Ingine inaitwa jumper, ile sweta ingine ile ya mtumba hata utaipata na shilingi 200. Lakini kule kwa shule wanaitisha shilingi 2,500. Blanketi ukinunua kwa soko ni shilingi 500. Ukienda kuinunua kwa shule wanaitisha katikati ya shilingi 700 na shilingi 1,000. Yale bed sheet, ile shuka ya kutandika kitandani, duka shilingi 600, kule kwa shule shilingi 1,000. Pilo ya kulalia ukinunua kwa soko ni shilingi 150. Mashule yetu inaitisha katikati ya shilingi 300 na shilingi 500. Na hakuna tofauti ya ile pilo ambayo iko katika soko na ile ambayo inaitishwa na walimu wetu katika mashule. Bucket ya kuibebea tu maji ama ya kusafisha nguo kwa soko shilingi 150. Shuleni katikati ya shilingi 300 na katikati ya shilingi 300 na shilingi 500. Zile socks ukinunua kwa duka katikati ya shilingi 50 na shilingi 100. Walimu wanaitisha katikati ya shilingi 200 na shilingi 500. Juu ya hayo wanakuambia baada ya kulipa haya yote lazima ulipe katikati ya shilingi 500 na shilingi 1,000 kuweka label katika zile uniform. Kwa hivyo kama tunataka mtoto wa Mkenya yote aweze kwenda shuleni, aweze kusoma na kufaulu katika maisha, juu ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumeongeza ile pesa tunaita ya capitation katika mashule zetu, lazima tupeane suluhu ya uniform ama sare za shule na haya mambo mengine yote ambayo yanahitajika katika shule zetu. Na njia sahihi kabisa ya kufanya hivyo ni kuhakikisha kwamba uniform ama sare zote za shule zote za umma katika nchi yetu za Kenya ziwe sawa. Ikuwe shati ni tuseme rangi ya nyeupe, kama ni trouser ikuwe ni rangi kama ya nyeusi ama ya grey, standard kiasi moja katika nchi yote. Na hivyo Mheshimiwa Speaker, tutakuwa tumesaidia kupunguza gharama ya shule, na juu ya hayo tuhakikisha kwamba yule fundi ambaye yuko pale Mukinyai, ambaye yuko pale Kapsinandet, ambaye yuko pale Chandera, ambayo yuko pale Yaremi, ambayo yuko pale Kapsita, anaweza kushona hizo sare na akaweza kusomesha watoto wake na kuweka chakula katika meza ya watoto wake. Kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, tumekuwa tukitengeneza sheria ambazo ni za tu kuhakikisha kwamba wale mabwanyenye ndio tu wanaweza kunufaika kutokana na hizo sheria. Kwa mfano tunaposema ya kwamba ukiangalia katika hata shule zetu, hata zile ambazo ziko mbali na mahali kwingine, unapoambiwa hii ndio barua ya kuingia shule, unaambiwa na hizi uniform lazima ununue kwa maduka fulani. Sio ya kwamba haya maduka mengine hayana hizo sare, sio ya kwamba bei yao ni mzuri kuliko hizo nyingine, lakini unasurutishwa vile sababu kuna ile agano mwalimu amefanya na yule na hilo duka liko hapo. Na unapata haya maduka Mr. Speaker hayana kitu kubwa. Ni vile tu wao ni bwanyenye wameweza kujikimu kimaisha, na ndio unapata wale ambao wako na hela katika nchi hii wanaendelea kupata zaidi. Wale ambao hawana wanaendelea kukosa zaidi. Kwa hivyo Mr. Speaker, kuna wale ambao waliongea hapa wale wakasema basi kama sare zote zitakuwa sawa, pengine hakutakuwa na maridadi. Na mimi nakumbuka yule ambaye alikuwa Matiang'i alikuwa na makosa mingi sana. Alifanya mambo mengi mabaya. Lakini kama kuna jambo moja alifanya nzuri ni kusema ya kwamba basi zote za nchi yetu ya Kenya zikuwe na rangi moja. Za mashule, basi zote za mashule zikuwe na rangi moja. Unakumbuka yule ambaye alikuwa waziri wetu wa uchukuzi, may he rest in peace, ama apumzike kwa amani, Mheshimiwa Mishuki. Akasema ya kwamba wale ambao ni madereva na makanga wa magari zetu wavae sare moja. Wengine zile za maroon, sijui maroon tutaje kwa Kiswahili, na wale wengine ya blue kwa madereva. Na hivyo kuhakikisha kwamba wao wote unaweza ukipata ukienda kwa eneo lolote la uchukuzi katika nchi yetu, utaweza kujua huyu ni dereva, utaweza kujua huyu ni makanga. Na pia kwa zile kununua hizo sare unaweza kuzinunua mahali popote katika nchi yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, hili ambalo tunapendekeza hapa limewezekana katika mashule yetu ya kufunza elimu ya matibabu. Asante Mheshimiwa. Mambo ya matibabu ile tunaita KMTC kwa kimombo. Kwa sababu yule msichana ambaye ama mvulana ambaye anasomea KMTC ya Molo, na yule ambaye kwa KMTC ya Kitui, na yule ambaye kwa KMTC ya Kisumu, na yule ambaye kwa ya Mombasa, ya Lamu, kila mahali wako na sare moja. Kama basi inawezekana hivyo kwa shule zetu za matibabu KMTC, mbona isiwezekane kwa shule yetu upili na kwa shule yetu ya msingi katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya? Inawezekana. Lakini hapa Mheshimiwa, tukubali ya kwamba haitakuwa jambo rahisi, kwa sababu tukienda kupitisha hii itakatazwa kwa njia kubwa sana. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiongea kule lazima pia nizungumzie mambo ya vitabu ambavyo vinapelekwa katika mashule yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunasema tunanunua vitabu vyote katika mashule yetu hasa ya upili, lakini tunaitisha lazima wanunue ile Biblia, lazima wanunue sijui ile dictionary na kamusi na mengine. Hivyo vitabu peke yake ni shilingi 1500. Kama tunaweza kununua hivi vitabu vingine vyote, vinakuwa hadi shule zingine ziko na vitabu zaidi ambazo unahitaji. Mbona basi tusinunue pia hizi tuweze kupea wanafunzi wetu, ili huyo mtoto wa maskini katika nchi yetu ya Kenya awe na nafasi sawa ya kusoma na kufaulu katika maisha kama yule wa tajiri. Nakushukuru Mr. Speaker.
Very well spoken. Honorable members, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our guests seated in the speakers gallery, students from Pioneer Girls School, Gatanga constituency, Murang'a County. You are welcome to follow proceedings in the National Assembly. At this moment, as you can see, we are focusing on school uniform. You are welcome to the National Assembly. The Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. School uniforms. Let me thank Honorable Mushomba for bringing this. I also took my time and talked to her. And indeed, it has come at the appropriate time, given that there's a gap in existence in our schooling system, and more so to do with school uniform, and specifically the cost of school uniform. And that's what brings to bear all this. But then it gives us a chance to look at the school uniform broadly in our schools so that we may make some amends that can actually make schooling to be accessible. So maybe to begin this properly is to go to what laws are governing education. And I will quickly go to the Constitution, Article 53, which describes education in Kenya as a right to all children. And therefore, all children, as per Article 53, are supposed to have free and compulsory education in Kenya. And that then aligns education as a function of the government. And that is why at one time when education was to be devolved, we who were in the education sector at that particular time and now, we completely refused that education should not be devolved because it's supposed to be a right of the children. Meaning then that this must be funded basically by the government. Yesterday, we were talking about the junior secondary school education, in which we were actually confronted with the same thing of who should pay for the cost of education in this country, given that it is a right to all the children of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, then I would quickly go to the SDG 4, which defines education as a lifelong for all the children and prefers that the first thing we should achieve in education is access. That are children able to access education? That's what we go for first. Once they have accessed, then we look at the other components or tenets of quality and so on and so forth. So anything, Honorable Speaker, that